Hello and welcome to this episode of SPSS one-on-one series with Warrior Analytics. Today we look at factor analysis, or what is sometimes referred to as principal component analysis. So what is factor analysis? Factor analysis is simply a statistical method used to identify underlying relationship between measured variables. Instead of analyzing each item separately, it helps you group variables that are closely related, and these groups are the ones we refer to as factors. To better understand factor analysis, let us consider an example that you want to carry out a study to understand employee perceptions of teamwork and job satisfaction. You're going to use a survey having 10 questions which are measured on a Likert scale of 1 for strongly disagree and 5 for strongly agree. In total, you have 500 participants. Typically, this is how your data would look like. You have your participants from 1 up to 500. Then you have your items. These are your questions, but we are calling them items in factor analysis. And you expect each of these cells to have a value between 1 to 5, according to your Likert scale. For each of these item names, these are actually variables with variable names. So we have item number 1, it is trust in the team. Item 2, team support. Item 3, communication quality, all the way down up to item 10, which is burnout risk. So if you were to analyze these 10 questions the way they are, they would carry little meaning to you. So that is where we need a method like factor analysis to help us. Let us also assume that in our survey, we are using a standard tool developed by a group of researchers consisting of these 10 questions. But for these 10 questions, this group of researchers tell us that the first 4 items in this tool measure a construct called the team dynamics, where we have these first 4 variables or the first 4 items. And then they also tell us that question number 5 up to 6, they measure a construct called job satisfaction. So this is the purpose of factor analysis. Factor analysis basically helps us to establish these groupings within variables. Whether we know them or we do not know them, the factor analysis would help us to extract them and see these patterns. That's why we started by saying that factor analysis helps us to identify those underlying relationships. When we do it, we know that, okay, variable 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are related in some way, and they describe a factor or a construct called team dynamics. Otherwise, if not, we would not be able to know. And we also said that instead of analyzing each item separately, it helps us to group those variables together, those that are closely related, into groups called factors. So that is the purpose of factor analysis. So this brings us now to the types of factor analysis. There are 2 main types of factor analysis. We have exploratory factor analysis, and then we have confirmatory factor analysis. For confirmatory factor analysis, it is used to test a hypothesized factor structure. In our example, it is assumed that question 1 up to 4, they are related and they measure a construct called team dynamics. So that is what we want to test. We've collected our data on our population. We want to see if we analyze, do we really get these 2 constructs, the one for team dynamics and job satisfaction? So we have here a hypothesis that we are testing whether is question 1 to 4 related to each other and can be grouped into a factor. How about question 5 to 10? Can they be grouped together into job satisfaction? So there is a hypothesis we are testing under confirmatory factor analysis. Then when it comes to exploratory factor analysis, this one is used to uncover unknown structures or factors. We do not know anything about the relationship between the different variables. We have no idea. We don't know that item 1 and to 4 are for team dynamics, or whether there is a construct called team dynamics. We have no idea. So exploratory enables us to bring related variables together. So lastly, let us look at the procedure for factor analysis. If you are to do a factor analysis, you're supposed to first check for suitability of your data, whether it meets the conditions for you to analyze it using factor analysis. Secondly, you check for the assumptions of factor analysis, then you run the analysis, and then you interpret the results of your analysis. Each of these key steps have got detailed procedures that we are not going to go into for this episode. I hope you've had an overview of factor analysis, what it is, and what it is supposed to do, plus the types of factor analysis. So in our next episode, we are going to see how to practically run a factor analysis in SPSS. How to check for those assumptions, the suitability, run the analysis, and interpret the findings. If you find this video helpful, consider liking, subscribing to our channel so that you don't miss out any of our episodes. See you in the next video.